Welcome back. Today we're going to talk a little bit about sound design and how you can get a lot of mileage out of your patterns and your chords, etc. if you know some tricks and how to stack different plugins. And so I'm just going to play this little spot here, this little piano pattern that I threw together. Okay, so it doesn't sound glorious. It's going straight through FL keys, the generic keyboard plugin that comes with FL Studio. But we're going to turn that sound into this. And we're gonna have to use some plugins that don't come stock, but most of these are pretty accessible for people to have. So if you don't know sound design, this is gonna be pretty useful. But we're gonna start out. I'm gonna remove all these neat plugins. Okay, so now we just have the piano going. Okay, so the first plugin that we put in this stack is called Guitar Rig. And what Guitar Rig is a guitar amp simulator. And it creates, it simulates a guitar amp inside a computer. So it's pretty nice that, you don't have to dial up amp settings or anything like that. You can do it right in your computer. Does it sound exactly like a guitar amp? Arguably not, but you can get pretty darn close. So when you put Guitar Rig in, I like to turn the right channel back on because by default, it's only inputting the left channel signal. Just for a wider sound, I like turning it back on. And for this piano, I'm going to turn the gate off as well. And there's a preset in here. And again, you might not have this, but you'll be able to search through your own presets and just kind of use this as an example. And I think it's this one, Lead B Pro. So if I play this back, I apologize if I exploded anyone's ears. That's one thing you got to keep in mind when dealing with amp simulators. It's just like a guitar amp, so the signal going in gets amplified until it distorts like mad. So I got to turn that down. And I'm going to turn this down over here as well. The output down here. Just bring this up. Okay, so you'll see I was dialing the input signal just so we get some good crunchy distortion without just hammering it to the wall. This is all going to be taste based on your ears and what you like, but that sounded pretty decent enough to me. So after Guitar Rig, this is where things start getting a little more interesting. We're going to put Gross Beat in here. And I'm going to click the Trans Gate 1 and play this back. Now the interesting thing is that you don't, depending on the position of the plugins, this is going to change the effect as they go through each plugin. So if I put Gross Beat above Guitar Rig, Gross Beat is going to affect the signal before it goes into Guitar Rig. So in this case, if we put the gated signal into the guitar amp, that's going to sound like this. you'll notice that those echoes from the amp kind of carry through those effects, whereas if I put it after, we're instead gating the guitar signal that's coming out of a guitar rig. So it's, again, all on taste. I'm just going to put that there, and I'm going to play this back and dial back the volume of the gate, which is kind of like a wet dry signal for this volume gate. Okay, so that sounds decent-ish enough. And the next thing we're going to put in here is a plugin I like a lot called FabFilter Timeless. And I'm just going to leave it on the default setting. Now you can hear that's a little bit busy on the delays, so I'm actually going to dial back the wet level as we play it back here. And, you know, it's kind of debatable, you know, whether or not you might leave that in, just because it does kind of muddy things up. But, you know, if you're doing some background padish type things, it might not be so bad. So last thing we're going to put on this list is Pretty Love Filter. And I'm right clicking this triangle over here and going to low pass 2. And this is just going to, I believe it's a low pass, so it's just going to cut off the top end frequencies. And I'll play this back as I tweak it. And it's a nice way to just add, you know, some texture while cutting off some of those harsh highs. And again, you can automate all this. So for instance, if you wanted to do something like, I mean, you could do a lot of different stuff. But this is the gist of the sound design basics of how you can stack different things like delays, filters, amp sims, gates, and different dry wetness levels. And this kind of sound design can create some really, really unique sounds, even if you're starting with something as generic as like FL keys. You know, it's generic FL keys, but... And you can tell if you had hours and hours to like sink into sound experimentation, you could come up with something pretty rad. So I'll just play it through one time, and I'm actually going to dial up the stereo width at the end as well. So hopefully that gave you a good primer on sound design, and you are hopefully equipped to make some of your own sounds now. And one last hopefully, I hope my audio levels are good so you could hear this tutorial well. All right, we'll talk to you soon, guys.